And welcome back to our second session for the entire day. Today's session is decoding the science of women's health. So I think very often for women, something that almost runs us is we say it's the hormones and we don't even quite understand it. So we've created this panel session to really help us have an in-depth understanding about how our bodies play an integral part in our motherhood journey. So I want to introduce Dr. SARAVANAN. He is a naturopath, also a doctor, right?
Yeah.
A doctor and then a naturopath physician of
Naturopathic medicine.
Naturopathic medicine.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking time to share with us about how naturopath is an alternative way of understanding our human body. Yeah, and then we have Dr. Lou Huibun, specializing in women's health. So thank you for taking time to share with us about how science, right? I mean, the reality is we are all just chemistry, right? Molecules and atoms. Yeah, and we have. Doctor, do we call you doctor?
Yeah.
No.
TCM physician.
TCM physician. So
Yes.
the head of Thomson
Chinese
medicine.
Yes.
Thank you for taking time because I think each of your three disciplines are going to be so insightful in helping moms understand ourselves. Okay? So to start, we do have a poll, and as of now, the poll is to help us understand for which one do you have, which of these would you want to listen to more of, right? Would it be PMS, post-menstrual syndrome? Would it be PND, postnatal depression? Would you want us to cover more on menopausal changes or the impact of hormones? Okay. So if for our viewers, if you can just click in question 2, which of the 4 questions would you want us to focus a bit more time on that you feel you are struggling a bit on? And if it's others, feel free to just type it in the Q&A. Yeah. Would it be PMS, PND, postnatal depression, menopausal changes, or generally just the impact of hormones on our body? Okay, so we do have quite a few menopause and the impact of hormones, yeah? Okay, so with that, I think panelists, you all have seen this. So let's start, yeah? Okay, I want to start with an overview on hormones. And if each of you can share with us the science of your discipline. Yeah, so Dr. Saravanan, naturopathy is considered an alternative medicine that is natural, is non-invasive. Can you share with us the science, specifically how it applies to women?
In naturopathic medicine, what we are looking at is addressing the underlying or the deep-seated issues that a person presents with a symptom. So when we look at the underlying conditions and we treat the root cause, we bring about a holistic and a complete change in the wellness of the person. And when that is happening, they get empowered physically. And we also look at the emotional part of the well-being as well. Emotions drive women to, or any human being, into a lot of stress, and that could manifest as a physical stress. And when we address the emotional part of it, we find a significant change happening in their wellness, and they start to improve, and they re-establish their wellness and empower themselves to greater things. So we use herbs, nutritional support, diet management, and stress management to help empower anyone, women in this case, yes.
Wonderful. I love the integration of the entire human body, right? In what you're sharing, not just the physical, but with the emotions as well.
Yes.
And Dr. Huibun, will you be able to share a majority of the clients that you see for women, what conditions do they normally come to you for?
Yes, it depends if they are postmenopausal or premenopausal. The common ones that I get, it's probably fatigue, low energy, weight gain, hair loss, low mood, stressed out, mom working with 4 kids. Yeah, this is probably the common issues that I get.
Wonderful. And I think fatigue is so real, right? For a mom. And I didn't know, people actually go to you for chronic fatigue, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And what's one solution you give them for that?
Unfortunately, there's no one solution to fix it all. I guess step one thing that they could do with the doctors is perhaps you can run some blood tests to see whether if the iron is low, if your B vitamins are low, have a check on where your hormone levels are sitting, estrogen, progesterone. So that sometimes can give an overview whether you think the fatigue is because of you're doing too much or there's actually some biochemical issues underlying that
Wonderful.
can help you.
And I love that you bring that up, right? Because I think very often people only think when I have a physical ailment, like then I will go. But there's a whole variety, and I think increasingly it's not just mental wellness, but emotional wellness that we can go to actually seek treatment on the physical body.
On the physical body, yeah.
And like what you wonderfully pointed out, it's different for each individual because our body chemistry, our lifestyles are so different.
Yeah.
Irene, it's a joy to connect with you. So as a TCM head, I think TCM is very different in like it's a holistic look at a human's body as well. So you share there are 5 different elements when it comes to treatment of patients. Would you want to just briefly share?
Okay. Actually, TCM, I mean, for ancient Chinese, we view that the health, humans are closely tied in with the whole universe. And so that's why the concept of the universe, will affect, can interpret like the nature, the laws, and as a result, there are relationships between the human body and the cosmos. And this is how the theory of the 5 elements came about, because just as the 5 elements exist in the universe, there are 5 elements in us as well. And our 5 organs correspond to different elements. So each of us has a dominant element, and there will be corresponding attributes to the element. For example, if let's say one element that we talk about frequently is the element of wood, the corresponding color will be green, corresponding season is spring, corresponding emotion is anger, and corresponding organs will be liver and gallbladder. So for example, if my dominant element is wood, so I will look good in what color?
Green.
Green.
Really?
Yes. And if I go to a country with 4 seasons, the season that I'll be most comfortable with will be in spring.
Wow.
Yeah. And
so in Singapore, we are constantly in summer,
yes.
correct?
So there will
Which is
be certain groups of people who don't thrive in this weather. Yeah. You'll find that especially people who travel, they'll be more sensitive, and they'll know that certain climates, they will be underperforming. Yeah.
Wonderful. So in Singapore, what is that element that is summer?
Singapore, actually, we also have a mix. So nothing is absolute in that sense also. It's relative, so you have to compare. Yeah, so it doesn't mean that if I am a wood element, I have no other elements in me. Yes, I do have secondary elements. So all of us, our elements are lined up in a different order. Yeah, so even though if both of us are the same element, because our secondary elements are in different orders, so it makes us very unique individuals.
I love that. And Huibun has generously shared, there is a link that we will be putting it up where you can actually do a test to see which is your element, is it?
Yes, because the 5 elements theory is simple, but it's very complex. So we do have a simple write-up, and there's a quiz at the bottom, which you can take. It's a very simple quiz. So it might give you a better idea of what your element is.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And I love how you identify that it's not just one, because so often, like me, what I just demonstrated, we try to put people in boxes, and it comes from a need to understand. But I love the customization that allows it for when we understand, hey, there's a dominant and yet there's a secondary and then the many subtypes. And then in different stages of your life, wherever you are, that again shifts the entire dynamics of the interchangeable science of it all.
Yes, yeah, I think you brought out a very key word, which is dynamics. And I think as women, as we go through the different seasons, entering into marriage life, having children, after children, empty nest, menopausal. Yeah, dynamics is a word that we have to keep up with. Yes, yeah.
And you will be sharing about the different stages.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, wonderful. And now, if Dr. Saravanan, we can have the picture up. You talk about this these 4 pictures, right? Are they the 4 seasons, or is this part of naturopathy?
Well, there are actually 4 seasons which you can relate to and describe about a woman and her progress in her life. So we are looking at a child, and then the child's attained puberty, she becomes a young woman, and then she goes into a marriable age, and she is also into career, and then she evolves into a stage where she attains menopause. So a child, you are looking at spring, right? And it's the spring season, and the child is very curious, very evolved, and is getting all the experiences that he needs. And then it attains puberty, it goes into summer, and she's very vibrant, she's aware of her body, and she's physically evolving, and then comes where she picks up all those skills, and she goes into autumn, where probably she's at the peak of her career. In her relationship, she would have already married by then and having kids and going through the whole process. But it comes to a phase where everybody wanted to have address and look at is winter, where they go through a phase where they have actually do experience a certain sense of loneliness, a sense of changes in their body as well. And usually it is seen as a bad thing, right? But it is not. It is actually a season of wisdom and experience where they can actually translate and give it back to the women in their life. So a daughter, sisters, or even the son's girlfriend, or anyone. And they are usually also going through this issue of menopause. And many women who thinks that menopause is something that they worry about, and actually is natural. You need to understand and accept it, that it's a natural phenomena that happens. The only concern that comes about is like what we do as human beings, that we muck up our climate and we create all the changes and confusions with our environment. Women also go through that phase as well, because of the kind of cosmetics they use, the kind of stresses they experience in their work and family, the diet that they have, the changes in their diet, the supplementation or the medication that they've been on, and that also affects the human system. And in that process, it can cause an early menopause. And an early menopause also leads to a lot of complications as well. Ideally, menopause should be happening at about the 50s, but we do have women who are experiencing menopause in their late 30s, yeah, and 40s, which is now very common, but it's actually very unusual. And when that happens, you find that they also have a series of issues with their uterus, with their breasts, and their digestive system, their hormones, and also their thyroids. So they need to be supported, as much as the support comes from the medicine or the healing facilities that are out there. The support has got to come from fellow women, and also the men in their home. Men need to appreciate women and understand how they are evolving. Although men feel okay even in their 60s and they still feel vibrant, some men do. Some do get a lot of dreadful diseases and they get complicated. But usually they think that women should be like them. But it is not so. Women are naturally evolving, and it is a phase. They need to understand it, accept it, and support and love the woman even more. When they do that, you'll find that women during menopause will thrive. They have so much to give back to the society and support, and also help themselves and empower themselves. So the picture that I projected here to show the different seasons is basically to say that the phases a woman goes through. And menopause is winter, and they can do with a lot of support.
Thank you. And what I'm also hearing you say, right, is sometimes the stressful lifestyle does accelerate the season so that I potentially reach menopause age earlier
Yes.
than the mainstream. Yeah.
It happens because as you rightfully point out, stress is not only just physical stress, it's emotional and it's mental stress as well. It can also be a spiritual stress because of the common society that we live in. We are always exploring new things, so we get exposed to different belief systems, and that belief system has an impact on us. Usually it's guilt driven, and this guilt can create havoc in your body. Yeah? So what we would like to do,
So you mentioned, right, that wait, let's focus. If we talk about hormones, post-menstrual syndrome, you even alluded that irregular menstrual cycles may have to do with trauma, emotional trauma.
Yes, yeah. We also live in a society where trauma comes and we can absorb the energy of trauma. Like some of them, many women do go through physical abuse, molestation or rape or something. But there are also enough information that is out there which projects women. If you do a Google search, you type women, you will have Wikipedia that talks about women. And the next thing is a series of pictures which portrays women as sexy, a sexy image of a woman, and that creates an impression that women are sexual objects. They are not human beings, and they are advertisements and they are sales gimmicks, and that you put out there and drive your sales and or information and the works. Very few information you will find that women are empowering and they are changing society. Right? The next phase in that Google search, you will also find, I did a search today, you'll find all the news about what all the wrong things that women have done, and that is projected. So you get a lot of bad news. You don't really get a good news about women. So we need to change that mindset. Yeah. So the question about you asking about hormonal changes and the works and the stresses that involve is to do with perception, what you hold a woman as, and also the perception needs to shift, not only in men but also in women, because women do become vindictive as well. So some ideas that I could share about women having this stress, where they start to develop issues with their uterus, they develop fibroids, the UTI, and it works. It could be translating to something where it says fear of intimacy. Fear of intimacy is a stress, and it could have happened because of failure of relationship or violation, right? And they're not able to handle it well. They get scared, and how to prevent a man from approaching them. Don't come to me, right?
Wow. So what
Don't
you're
get
saying
near
is
to me. Yeah.
it's almost as if it's self-inflicted unconsciously, of course.
Yes,
as
because
a self-defense mechanism.
yes, what you feel intensely, emotionally, it translates. There's a chemical reaction, and it physically manifests as a challenge. So you could be developing all these issues in your body as well. Yeah, and so it need not just be a physical abuse or something. Sometimes just news, all this information that's out there, which makes a woman feel she's not good enough. I'm not good enough to look good, and I don't look like the model in that picture. Or
So all the comparisons and the expectations.
yes, and that has got a direct impact, and it starts to manifest as a physical challenge in the body.
Thank you for sharing how just our thoughts or our emotions actually imprints on our physical body as a challenge, as a physical challenge. Yeah. So, Dr. Lou, I want to ask you, right, when we talk about hormones, can you give our audience an insight as to what hormones actually are and how they mess up, with our with just our lifestyle?
Yes, hormones, they are made from cholesterol, and some of the organs that are involved, I'm sure you're already aware, like the ovaries produces estrogen, progesterone. There's also a master gland in the brain that's called pituitary, which above that is a hypothalamus, which then regulates the whole body hormonal balance. I mean, I know we are talking about women's and hormones, but the hormones never act by themselves. How your adrenal glands, which is the one that produces cortisol and DHEA, some of the stress hormone response that we, with the current stress lifestyle, will probably keeping us going and going all the time. And that can also influence the estrogen and progesterone balances as well. So instead of, I mean, it's important probably to get it checked to see where the levels are. But sometimes it's not just looking at the estrogen and progesterone, but the whole hormonal impact on the body. How are you kind of sleeping? How are you resting? Are you having too much on your plate? I mean, on the other side, because the hormones can also impact the physical part of the body, I guess it comes important sometimes if you have really heavy period, really painful, really cramp. It's still worth to do some basic investigation, looking at a scan and see if there's big fibroid or whether there are other issues. It's like the whole body as a whole, while whatever stresses lead to or anything that could lead to the hormonal imbalances, sometimes it can also impact on the physical part of the body. It's probably important to address both of it at the same time.
Wonderful. So like example, testosterone causes hair drop, hair loss, a bit more aggression.
Yeah,
right?
the other one is testosterone.
And then,
so when one of your hormones drop, the other hormones can, it's about a balance of where the hormones are sitting in the body. So if you have, I don't know, example, too little estrogen or too high testosterone, obviously, if you're female, the testosterone sometimes, not all the time, can be one of the cause for hair loss. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, okay, I get it. It's sometimes a bit too simplistic.
It's very hard to just pinpoint one thing that causes it. Yeah.
So just go for a check.
Yeah, just get it checked.
Wonderful.
So,
and I would love to hear the TCM perspective. Like, Dr. Saravanan has the 4 seasons. Does the TCM have their own, have your own,
Yes.
system? Yeah, diagram.
Yes, definitely. In fact, I mean, the 4 seasons described is similar with TCM, but in TCM we also have this from a very ancient classic that says that the women's life cycle is in 7 years. Every 7 years is a milestone. So for example, when you are 7, that's the time when our children go to primary school, right? And then their teeth are mature, hair, like the physical attributes, they are developed. And then when they hit 14, that's
Puberty.
when, you're right. And 21 to 28 is considered the peak. So for childbearing, that is most ideal.
Oh,
yes. But in Singapore, most of
Yeah.
us, our
Has
median age, right, of having the first child falls 28 to 35, in
Yes.
this range. Yeah. So that's still good, but it's when our energy is on the decline. And after 35, where that is most significant, that's why you find that a lot of women in this age group might have to turn to, IUI, IVF, etc., which is common nowadays. Yeah. And of course, between 42 to 49, that's another decline. So women in this age group, we really have to, build up the foundation. Because that's when also children are, maybe in the primary school age, and women start to have more time for themselves. And I urge women who are in this age group to start investing into their own health before they hit the 49.
How do we invest into our health? Do we eat something better, or do we rest?
Yeah. So I think this is a very big question, the $1 million question. How do we invest? Because I think at the end of the day, health, if you don't have health, you can't have a lot of other things in life. Yeah. So start by paying attention to what your body tells you, because a lot of times we are very distracted. Day by day, there's the routine of work, there's the demands of children, there's the demands of colleagues, bosses, yeah, end up that we do not have our own time. We don't even know which direction we are heading. So I think it starts by, you know, the simple things: eat well, sleep well, have a balance, work-life balance, and know in life what you're pursuing for, you know, and just listen to your heart, listen to your body. That will be the good starting points.
And I think it's also when we are at the age that we would already have reached a certain level of awareness where we begin to look inwards instead of outwards to for that how do I say, that discovery of who I am in my uniqueness.
Yes.
Right? And no longer needing to have to be like someone else or to follow after someone.
Yes, because I feel that at this age group, the demands on us are greatest, I feel, among all the other years. And so our resilience becomes important. And so if you don't build that inner strength and your physical strength, the next 40 years would be a challenge.
So this is the period for us to really consolidate, go inward and anchor ourselves again.
Yes.
Wonderful. You want to say something?
Yeah, I agree with her, because we also need to encourage women to take charge of their body, take charge of their mind and their emotions as well. Because you are not like a machine that you replace something or take out an organ and just go about. Because there are a lot of implications that are out there when you go for a surgery, especially when you go for a radical hysterectomy, and where you remove your uterus and fallopian tube because you had all these issues with your menstrual cycle, and usually from medical point of view you are recommended surgery and having removed, and at a certain age they said, oh, you're not going to have children, and get that moved. But it has its implications. You need to keep everything in order in your body and take charge of yourself. Talk to someone who would help you understand your unique nature and help you address you as a unique person instead of a common commodity. And when that is done, then that person can be empowered mentally, physically, and emotionally. So this can only be done when you are in charge of your body. You take charge of yourself. If you give that responsibility to someone else, then you lose your momentum and they will keep you sick. And probably you go for an extensive surgery and processes that is totally unnecessary.
I hear what you're saying. And talking about that, right? I think postnatal depression is a period where instead of, like, I've tried all I can, and while the natural response is to isolate myself, it's really to come out. And postnatal depression, really, statistics have shown 1 out of 7 women have postnatal depression, and many of them go undiagnosed. Like, we don't even know. We are just like constantly feeling like a failure or depressed or that I'm not good enough. So, Dr. Lou, would you be able to share a bit more about what are some changes someone who may be going through postnatal depression could do to bring themselves out of it or to surround themselves with support systems?
I think, like what Dr. SARAVANAN has shared as well, it's being aware. First, you have to be aware to know that you're not doing good, that you're not feeling well, and get enough support system in. I mean, I don't feel like, oh, all the moms can do it, why can't I do it?
What are some symptoms of postnatal depression?
I guess you feel very tired, you're not getting enough sleep, you're getting irritable, getting angry. The babies cry, you feel like, oh, it's crying again. Why is it still crying again? Or feeling incomplete, not enough. Am I feeding the baby enough? Just low mood in general, you don't want to go out anymore. You lost your interest, your friends ask you, I don't have time. Yeah, I mean, these are some of the common symptoms that a lot of them that come in, they say, I'm very angry. Like some of them don't even aware they're actually going through depression. They just come in, I'm just very tired. I'm very, very tired, until you go in to ask them the symptoms and they realize, oh yeah, I'm actually depressed. And it's also a stigma to look for a doctor to say that, I'm depressed postnatally, because you always thought that I can cope with it, but now I can't. Yeah, so, yeah. commonly they have low iron, just to share a bit more.
And increasing the
Increasing
iron
those
in-
iron levels can actually help them to feel a lot more energetic. Their mood changes, they feel better and say, oh, I'm not depressed anymore, I'm actually normal, you know,
So it's a supplement that we take, or?
Yeah, I mean the reason why you may be low because you just carry a 9 months pregnancy. It's gonna take away all the nutrients that your body can cope. And then you have a delivery which you're gonna lose blood. Then you're gonna breastfeed, which the body is gonna take away whatever that's there,
Deplete our nutrients.
everything that you have, and if you don't have enough of iron, nobody is gonna feel great with low iron. So I mean, if it's low, then you see how low is it, and it's not always looking at reference ranges. You kind of see where you are at and what to take, and replacing iron supplementation, even just taking more meat products. Liver is excellent.
Wonderful. Thank you. I love you touching on food. And I want to ask you, like, you know, when a mom first gives birth, because I think in TCM, I was told, Junior, this is the point, exactly what you were saying, where your body has just undergone major operation and you need to top up. When I was young, no need lah, it's okay. And then until some wise person told me, Junior, you don't get the impact now. But why are you doing this to your body? Because when you're older, you will wish that you had looked after your body. So what are some like practices that a new mom could do to revitalize or to replenish what has been taken out?
Yes. This is what I do in my work daily, you know, helping the younger women to understand why, you know, having a good confinement is important. Yeah, not just at this moment, but now that we know that our life is a series of events, right? What happens in your 30s will affect your 40s and your 50s. And for many of us, you know, having a child is really a life-changing event, physically as well. Yeah. So I guess iron food is our first therapy. Yeah, even before we consider, you know, what treatments should mom have, food is our first line of therapy always, which is why confinement food is designed in such a way that it provides, you know, the quality protein, the iron, you know, and as well as for the breastfeeding demands as well. So a good confinement meal is definitely worth investing into, or if there's somebody at home who understands, you know, what will make good food for the first week, the second week. This is a very traditional practice, but every week your nutrition needs are changing.
Wow.
So you cannot be taking the same food throughout that 4 weeks. Yes. So a proper meal, yes, yeah, a proper meal will cater to the different physical needs of the body. Definitely, because like after the first week that you deliver, your iron will drop very low, and definitely the iron replacement will be very important. But as you go on to the second and third week, your energy becomes important, and that will help with the breast milk supply. And then in the fourth week, usually this is what we call the grand finale, sort of like working on the foundation, because usually after the fourth week, this is when the body sort of reach a new balance, and then you need the mom to be able to strengthen it here so that it will carry her through the other months, you know, the rest. But of course, it doesn't just stop there. I always tell moms that this is a new beginning. Doesn't mean that it's the end of the confinement period and then you go haywire with the bubble tea and the cheesecake and everything else. Yeah, but it is actually the start of a new diet. Yeah, because you continually have to nourish yourself before you can give to any other people in your life.
So what is like, I know it's a bit general, but what is one food source that we could take more of? Would it be fish? I mean, generally after.
Yeah, there are many good sources of food, but the only problem now is most of our food sources are in a processed form. And strictly speaking, anything that comes in a package is considered processed. Yeah, so that's our biggest challenge. As long as we can replace the process with natural, wholesome food, I think we are safe. Yes.
Okay. And as a naturopath,
Yeah.
I'm sure,
As they touched about iron deficiency, which is very common and causes all the stresses, you need to know and understand if they are absorbing the iron effectively in their body. So some women, for a variety of reasons, cannot absorb the iron that they are taking. So it could be coming from the food source, or it could be supplemented, but they are not getting the benefit. So one thing that they can do is to look in their B vitamins, and especially B6, and that helps to improve the absorption of iron in their body. So they need to supplement that. So they can talk to a nutritionist, a naturopath, and the person could advise them. The other thing is about food. You need to take a good source of protein and a good level of fiber in your diet. It comes from the vegetable sources, and some carb. And you can use your hand as a ruler, to support yourself. So if you stretch out your palm like that, you need 3 servings of vegetables.
3 of this.
Yes, per meal. Yeah. And then you make a fist, and then that's the protein that you get from your meat sources, if you have to have meat. Yeah. And then if you look at the inner palm, and that's how thick it is, that's how much carb that you can have.
So almost the same portion of protein and carb.
Yeah, protein is a fist.
It's just this part.
Yes.
So
And the inner
carbs
palm
a bit more.
is your rice, your noodles, or what. But usually we do get a huge serving of rice, and that's the Asian way. Yeah. So we get a carbohydrate load. Yeah. And we do not have enough protein, and then we don't get enough fibers in the form of vegetables. So you need to get a good serving of vegetables. They clean up, they remove the toxins out of your system, and they also nourish you. Like if you were to take a cup of broccoli on a daily basis, that can reduce inflammation significantly because of the sulforaphane that's naturally occurring in the broccoli. So take a cup of broccoli, have it in your samosa, or have it in your soup, stir fried with butter or whatever. Take it, and it does wonders to your body. You feel so energized and supported. Yeah. One other last thing that I also want to share about supplementation is to get a good mineral supplement, right? Usually when we feel fatigued and tired, we look for vitamins. Our body actually needs vitamins, but it needs minerals. Minerals are repairers of your body. So you need to have a complex mineral, and also vitamin D3, right? Take some vitamin D3, and
Vitamin donkey.
yes, D3. Yeah. And D3, you can actually get it from sunlight.
Yeah,
You go
that's
out
what
in
I
the
thought.
sun.
Yeah, the vitamin
But
D.
not everybody absorbs sunlight effectively. And because of the nature of our work, we go to work before sunrise and return home at sunset. So we don't really get much sun. Yeah. So the best thing to do is to get some vitamin D into your body. It helps to restore your calcium, protects your heart, prevents a stroke, also prevents depression. So it's an amazing supplement to have. Yeah. And you can always take it on a regular basis, and you can find an immediate shift, and you become much happier and deal with this postnatal stress as well.
Wonderful. And moving the subject on to menopause, which is what they were sharing. I think menopausal, right, in that period, there are so many different symptoms. So specifically talking about hair loss or increased irritability or hot flushes. Dr. Lou, is there something that we can begin to do in terms of lifestyle? So not just medication, but what lifestyle changes would you advocate?
Again, you have to relook to how much you have on your plate. Are you doing too much? What your body can cope? The stressors are important. Are you sleeping enough? I mean, I've noticed in my patient, if they've changed their diet, improved their sleep, trying to change their expectation of how much they should do, half of their symptoms would have improved without the need of any supplementation or going down to the medication road.
I won't be surprised, I really think how it starts off for most women is we are okay, and then once the baby comes, that's where sleep deprivation starts.
Yeah.
And then the bank gets depleted over the years until menopausal. So in hearing what you're just saying, it's really catching up on the sleep, on the years of potential deficiency that I have put my body through. And that may just bring the overall balance naturally. My body intelligently knows how to tiao, they say, bring the balance. Yeah. Wonderful. And Irene, so you know a lot of women, they either have bloatedness or they have gain in appetite, yeah, or headaches, right? What's the TCM solutions that you would suggest?
Okay, so for TCM, there is no one solution for menopause because everybody is different. So the way of treatment in TCM is based on syndrome differentiation, meaning identifying the root cause of the imbalance. So for example, you and me, we might be experiencing the same kind of symptoms, but because our constitution is different, so the treatment will be different. So for example, if you all have been watching Junior is very high in energy. You can see by how fast she talks, you know, her actions, yeah. Whereas in comparison, I'm lower in energy, you know, yeah. So because of this difference, the treatment that she received and I received will be different. But in TCM, the common modality of treatment will be acupuncture and Chinese medicine. So for acupuncture, it really helps to improve blood and energy flow. And for Chinese medicine, it's more on strengthening of the different organs, as well as we always say we try to achieve a balanced state. So anything that is overperforming, then we have to bring it down. And so for those who are underperforming, we have to bring up the energy. So this is what we can do with both acupuncture and Chinese medicine.
I love the customized solution. And in acupuncture, it clears the meridian points, is it? Or the blockages, so to speak. And what I'm hearing is the food sort of like replenishes. So both are very different strategies, is it?
Yes, correct, yeah. But ultimately, they both have a common objective, which is to restore the balance in the body.
Wonderful. I'm someone who, if you all know, right, I really love natural alternatives because I believe that we were made, and that we have a very intelligent body and our body actually knows it just needs some support, right? Like to clear a blockage here or to really listen to my body and rest a bit more or even to eat some food that I may not like the taste of, but it's okay because it would serve me long term.
Yeah. Also, in naturopathically, what we also do is that we do a food intolerance test in my clinic. Yeah. So we take hair samples, we send it to the lab for testing, and then it comes with a series of food that is not agreeable, that is unique to that person. It's not a common thing, so every individual is unique. Even in a family, you'll find that they are intolerant to different things. So once you know those foods that are not agreeable for you, you change your diet, you choose different foods to eat. We all are creatures of habit, we tend to eat the same thing. Yeah? I have people who just love to eat prata, and that is their staple breakfast in the morning, but it's a very unhealthy food to eat. So when you tell them not to eat that, then they get very spooked and they say, oh, I've been eating it for the last 10 years, what do you want me to do? Okay, eat your prata with something else. Yeah, add something to it that enhances that energy. You feel a shift and slowly you wean out of that eating the prata or the bread, yeah, that you're eating. So a diet has got to be customized for the person. And in that process, you find that they start to establish a certain balance. They sense it through their breath. They feel a heightened energy. The menstrual cycle starts to balance and flow naturally, and they start to experience a new shift in the gear of their whole system, and it can be achieved simply through diet, and then secondarily the supplementation.
Wonderful. And I think I understand what you say because there was a period in my life when I didn't exercise. And I didn't exercise because I think slim enough, no need. And you know, the mentality that exercise is to lose weight. But when I started jogging, I really had enhanced energy. In the beginning, I dreaded it really, but I did it because I knew I wanted a mental stamina or fortitude. And that's why I took it up. And after that, it's like, I really feel good, you know. Even Chase, after the kids also got more energy. And then there's literally a spring in my step. It's no longer, it's less sluggish.
Yes.
So I hear you when you say if we change our food or even our lifestyle, like adding exercise, it brings us to the next gear. And very often, I think, when we are at gear 2 or 3 or whatever, we don't know. That's normal for us, and we think this is how life is, the speed. But then when we begin to try something different, it brings us to a different level, and then I think that is where we are at choice. To then choose, do I like this? Can I switch down or increase? And just play around with the different gears that we could be at in different seasons of our life.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you. Okay, as we bring this in conclusion, I wanted to ask each of you for one specific tip that you would love to leave our audience with. Is there something that Dr. Lou, you would want to share?
For the mummies, self-care time.
Share
Me time, I guess. Make sure no matter how busy your schedule is, prioritize even that half an hour of self-care time every day. Like the things will still move on. Things will still move on as they will be, even that 30 minutes of rest that you take it for yourself.
And self-care is different for different individuals.
Yeah, different from different individuals. It could be exercises, it could be meditation. I mean, I'll try not to use screen time and self-care time if you can. Like, don't scroll on Facebook and watch Netflix kind of thing. That's not enough rest for the brain.
It's constant flashing.
Yeah, it's constant flashing. And you pick
yeah.
up a hobby that you like, any hobby. I think nowadays I realize when I ask the moms, do you have a hobby? They're like, oh, yeah, I have no hobby. Then you realize, yeah, maybe we think, I don't know, it could be dancing, could be gardening, could be, I don't know,
reading.
It's
catching up with a friend, also inclusive.
Yeah, it's also, yeah. I mean,
it doesn't just have to be an isolated.
No, it doesn't have to be anything that you like from. I mean, meeting a friend for coffee and yeah. So that's really a time for yourself that you feel happy after that.
Wonderful. I so love that, and I think I do have some questions, but Wei, if you can just share a tip as I read the questions.
Sure. So for me, I would think it's important to get our inner compass pointing in the right direction, because a lot of times there's too many demands on us, and we get caught up with everything so much that we do not know where we're heading. So I think it's important to know where our compass or where we want to be heading in the, at the end of the day, and follow that direction and be dare to be different from the rest. We don't have to be the same as our neighbors, our peers, but dare to embrace what we have set as the goal for ourselves and just go for it.
I love what you share. I so love it because I think, especially when you say by the time we reach being motherhood, it's really as we model for our children. But if we are still chasing after and still, I think it's fine to be uncertain. But I think in our uncertainty and our discovery, to still take bold risk or to still step out, even if it's different, to listen mostly to ourselves and then make mistakes. I mean, what's the worst? In the end, as we make mistakes, that's part of modeling for our children, how that is part of growth and life experiences. Instead of shunning from it, to embrace mistakes. Wonderful.
I always tell my clients, it's okay to be stressed, it's okay to feel unwell, but don't remain stressed and don't remain unwell. Change, change and shift yourself. Give a chance to yourself and empower yourself to regain your wellness and overcome stress. So do all the things that you can, right? It can only happen when you take responsibility for your body.
I love what you say. I mean, stress in doses is good because it pushes us, it stretches us. But for prolonged period is where it doesn't serve us anymore. And with that, I want to take a few questions because we do have time. I've always struggled to keep weight off. It's excavated by age. So the question here is how do I lose weight? Any natural remedies or any solutions?
There's no one solution to it.
And I think, I can exercise and eat normally, but get more tired.
Right. So probably
is this a hormonal thing?
It could be a hormonal thing. You got to get your thyroid checked and see how your T3, T4, and TSH are functioning. And from there, we can figure out, is it under functioning or is hyper functioning? and then they can be supported with that through diet, sometimes certain supplementation, also lifestyle, what kind of lifestyle you have, your sleep, and what kind of supplementation that you're taking, or are you taking anything at all, your diet, they all play an important part, and the kind of exercise that you're doing. So you could be, there are, many will just go out there, do a lot of cardio and really, stress themselves up and increase all the inflammation process in their body, which keeps the weight going, right? It doesn't reduce the weight. So you need to identify what exercise suits you and then do that exercise in a comfortable and careful way. The most simplest and most underrated exercise is walking and swimming. If you can swim, or just go for a walk. 30 minutes or 45 minutes of walking, and that does wonders to your body, mentally and physically as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Saravanan. And I want to take up the next question. I heard if my menstrual cycle starts early, menopause will likewise start early because there's a fixed number. Is that true, or is that just a myth that anyone can speak about? Doctor?
I don't think it's true. I don't think it's been confirmed scientifically. No, that's not true. It's how you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Throughout,
And I like what you're saying, because I think together with what Dr. Saravanan and Iway have shared, it doesn't matter where we are at.
Yeah.
So we may not have looked after ourselves in maybe my first child confinement because of ignorance, but with my second child, with the new knowledge that I have, at the new life stage I am at, I can, and even through this panel discussion, we can choose to take action to do what serves my body in this period, right? Instead of, I should have and I could have and and just be present. And then that is what would then top us up and prepare us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe one thing
Yes.
I always tell the mothers, because some of them, for example, first child, they for some reason did not take good care, and subsequently they feel that, oh, my health is in such a poor state because I didn't do this, I did not listen, etc., etc. The thing is, we are stronger than what you think you are, and it's never too late. So never give up and never say never. It's only a point of when you decide to do something for yourself, and then get started. It's never too late.
Yes. I love what you shared, because earlier, Dr. Saravanan, you were saying, like prata. And if I take away prata for the sake of physically eating something that's good to me, I may start emotionally not being happy because I love my prata. So I think to understand that our human body, right, it's not just about the food that I eat, but also my emotions and also my thoughts. And everything has to be in alignment such that then I'm happy. So would I be right to conclude to say that if I am experiencing joy and happiness on a daily basis, I am in a good space? Is that one barometer that we can use?
Definitely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Because it is not easy to be in a state of joy and happiness when you are feeling unwell, right? When you are physically stressed. So joy and happiness and love naturally happens when you are feeling well, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So that will be a barometer to assess and embrace the wellness. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Saravanan. And I see some more questions coming in. Iway, is there any natural remedy for thyroid from the TCM perspective?
Yes, So actually what we have been talking about, mind, soul, body being aligned, I think that this is something that is very important, especially for hormonal disorders. And in TCM, definitely, again, we'll try to diagnose what is the underlying cause, and then work on the hormonal imbalances as well. So usually we can see good results with that.
Wonderful. So I think her answer, right, to this question also, may I know where I can get the questionnaire? So we will be putting the questionnaire in our description on the Facebook page. So if you're watching it on Zoom, great, but we will also be putting the recording of this session on our momspace.asia Facebook page. And in the description or the comments, look out for Iway's questionnaire that you'll be able to do do share it around, because I always believe, and that's the reason why we have all these panel discussions. With more knowledge, right, we can then be at choice to begin to pull what works for me, right? Because ultimately we decide, we know best, but you know, like when I was younger, I know so little, my choices were only from a limited pool. But the more we increase, the more we would be able to then also support other moms around us. So it's not just for ourselves, but for our community. So with that, thank you so much. I trust that this entire, you know, decoding the science of women's health was something that you enjoyed. Do stay tuned as I pass you over to Shirlene. And for our last panel session, we talked about rekindling the marital intimacy. Because in a lot of marriages, when the kids come around, what happens is, boom, you know, the relationship does take a hit, right? So thank you so much and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.